They keep coming back.
It's like, I brought royalty for you guys
I
tonight.
know, I know.
Just say it. Just say it. Mark doesn't.
Okay.
I'd go say Thomas Cemetery.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome tonight to the Town Council meeting. However, we are going to start it this evening with a public hearing, and I'm going to ask the town manager to set it up for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we have a public hearing which is kind of new to the town. We've never done one of these before. This is not a town obligation bond. This is a bond from Livewell, who is doing major additions in Southington over the next couple of years. So I'm going to ask the representatives of Livewell to come up, talk about the bond, how it works, and explain to the council why we're having it at the council meeting. So anybody from Livewell want to come up? Right at the
Right
podium,
at the
please.
podium, please. And please state your name and your company.
Hi, thank you, everybody. My name is Keith Varian. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Murtha Klein. I represent Livewell. Thank you very much for having us, and thank you for hosting this meeting. As Mark said, this is a public bond issuance where the issuer will be the New Hampshire Finance Authority. And part of the IRS rules relating to a public issuance is you need to do two things. First is you need to have a public hearing, and the second is you need to have a local elected official, the highest elected official in the jurisdiction, approve the bond issuance and the hearing. So since we're not going through a local issuer, we're going through NFA, New Hampshire Finance Authority. The typical process then is to go through the local municipality who will host the public hearing, which is the TEFRA, that's the IRS statute that the hearing is under. And then after that, the council or the mayor, in this case it'll be the highest elected body in this town is the town council, will approve the bond issuance. It is in no way an obligation of the town. It is no debt of the town. It is simply an opportunity to give the public a chance to speak on the bond issuance. And as Mark said, it's a large project on behalf of Livewell, who will be significantly upgrading their facility here in town. Happy to answer any questions.
And before, I did, because it's a case of first impression for me, I did send it to the town's bond counsel, and she has signed off on it, simply saying that there's no obligation to the town. This is an IRS regulation, which we're going through. So for anyone who thinks it's a bond obligation for the town, it is not. So, but we're
Thank you
happy.
for clarifying
obviously,
that.
we have a citizen of the town of Southington who's been a very good citizen, and we wanted to help them out, so that's what we're here.
Very good. Yes,
Madam Chair,
Paul? Yes,
may I ask a question?
certainly. Of course.
Can you just tell us for the record, the address, the location of where the upgrades are going to be?
Sure. So the Livewell facility is located at 1231 and 1261 South Main Street in Southington.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Because it's a public hearing, Madam Chair, we still have to go through
Sure,
anyone speaking.
sure. I'm going to open it to the public now. Are there any folks would like to speak in favor of this bond proposal? Anyone speaking in favor of this? Anyone speaking against this? I don't know if anyone else would like to say anything from, Mike, you want to come on up?
My name is Michael Smith. I'm the president and CEO of Livewell. Appreciate the opportunity, Chairwoman. The Livewell organization is delighted to be in Southington and proud to have the support not only of the town but the greater diaspora of Connecticut who find themselves experiencing life with dementia, whether they're diagnosed or loving someone who is. And so there are about 80,000 people in Connecticut who experience dementia. We have the opportunity to help a number of them on our campus. This renovation will allow us to serve a few more people on campus, but probably about hundreds of thousands more through community outreach with some of the spaces that we'll be building. So I appreciate the opportunity to be heard tonight and to have you host this public hearing. Thank you.
Michael, how long has Livewell been here? Of course.
Livewell was set up, the physical space that you see as you come off of 84 just before the AquaTurf. That building has been there since 1992. Yeah, so just about 30
Helping an
years.
awful lot of folks.
Alzheimer's research.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
much
you.
so. Thank you. Once again, anyone speaking against this project? And no other comments from the town council. I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We have it down for action at the end of the meeting. Thank you. All right, everyone, we're going to open up our meeting. It is just about 7 or 8 after 7. So, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
William Dietzick.
Here.
Tom Lombardi.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Christopher Poulos.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo. Victoria Triano.
Present. Could we all stand for the prayer and the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us to be compassionate and caring for each individual while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Give us wisdom and guidance. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the flag salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. May I have a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second that, Madam Chair.
We have a second. Any discussion, deletions, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or any changes? Hearing none, it is unanimous approval. Item 3, councilperson's communication. Anyone have anything?
Madam Chair, I have something. It's just, I know the public was aware that there was an incident last evening with one of our local businesses who had a malfunctioning piece of equipment. And once again, our Southington Fire Department came to their aid and repaired the issue. Lots of other towns helped out Southington, so I just want to once again give some kudos to all of our town staff, including town manager, who was emailing us well into the evening, and our Southington Fire Department, who once again came through. They're just tip-top. I spoke with the chief today through email late in the afternoon, and they were there right up until 2 or 3 o'clock. So just want to congratulate them for doing another great job and looking out for the people of Southington.
That's great. And the other thing I wanted to mention with that incident, the emergency telephone worked very well. Messages came through there. Mostly everybody I talked to had received an emergency phone call, just making us aware, and also that it had been handled and it was completed. So that was very important for all of us. So that is good. And really our fire department is amazing, and they just handled it. And thanks for the reciprocity with other departments too. So very good. Mark, did you want to mention anything at this point? Because we
No, actually, it was a long night, as you know. Started at 8 o'clock, ended probably around 4:30, at least for my area. But met with the 2 chiefs today. Excellent job by all staff. Obviously I praise them all the time. This one here was all the engine companies came in.
yes.
We had engine companies help from other towns. Thank you to Waterbury. Thank you to Deep, those were the 2 divisions that actually went into the building and found the issue. It was a minor issue that caused a major problem. That being said, things worked the way they should. Certainly, I think that in this particular case, to know that we're prepared for something like this that happens. I do think that the only thing that I probably didn't do right is that I just simply gave a notice out to everybody. The notice had to be given immediately. I didn't want to sit down and do a geographic, so I just said send it, and it went out to everybody. Even though it's only that 1 mile, people got it on the Cheshire line, wondering what happened. But
I think
that
everyone was
yeah.
appreciative. At least
Yeah.
we were all informed that something was going on,
Yeah.
even though we weren't it wasn't directly relating to us.
Mhm.
So I think that was very wise to do. So
Consider the alternative.
exactly. Very good. Anybody else? Yes, Chris Lewis.
No, just to follow up on the fire. This week, several of us here on the dais shared out information about our volunteer firefighter opportunities in town. And if you've attended these meetings, I'm always keeping people aware about the fact that we do have a combined department here in Southington, career and volunteer. And we depend on our volunteers. And COVID really kind of gave us a dip in our volunteer recruitment, but we're coming out strong. And so if you're on social media, information was posted by a handful of us up here, and then also on the town website, the town clerk put it up. And the information I'll ask that be included in the minutes for this meeting. We really want to keep promoting additional volunteers on our fire department. So it makes
good.
it great.
Thank you. Any other councilmatic communications? Yes, go ahead,
I had
Paul.
one. I'll echo the sentiments of the previous counselors and say it was a great job by the fire department in town, and thank you to everybody, including yourself, Mark, for the great job. I also wanted to just note that for those who didn't see it, our police department was also in the news this
yeah,
past week or
right.
two, and we want to give them a shout out for being recognized by their peers in the state of Connecticut. They were on a couple of the news stations recently. Our neighborhood watch group working very tirelessly to keep things safe and keep an extra eye out in the community, paired with our police department, who is helping create a framework for safety in the task force, the safety regarding the break-ins that we're having, especially with motor vehicles and the juvenile issues that we are facing among the state. So shout out to our police department for a great job there to partner with the community. And it was nice to see that they were being used as a best practice, if you will, and encouraging other towns to reach out to us to find out how the Southington Police Force is, trying to deal with the hand that's been dealt to them. So thank you to the Southington Police Department.
Along with that, Paul, I had an opportunity to go with Chief Daly and Deputy Chief Palmieri to a local business, and also Chris Laporte, Officer Laporte, because this business had some folks come in and remove catalytic converters, but they went out personally to talk to the shop owner and to get a bird's eye view of really where the trucks were kept and what could have gone. It was, they are so committed right now to protecting our citizens and our properties. So I agree, it's a great opportunity, and it's very refreshing to see that they're being recognized in the state for their expertise. So very good. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none other, let's move on to item number 4, the special committee reports, please. I have Public Works first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a fairly brief meeting last week. We had an update on our West Street, Prospect Street four-way intersection. The state DOT is now involved, and they gave us some ideas of what has to happen in that intersection if the state was even going to consider putting a traffic light there. There are 9 different prerequisites that have to occur, as it were. So we'll be collecting data over the next couple of months to see if this intersection meets those criteria, and if it does, there possibly could be a light, and if it doesn't, then we've got to figure something else out. But once again, kudos to the police chief who is working on this, and we're putting reflectors up and larger stop signs. So we're doing a good job to try to get ahead of this situation so we don't have another accident coming up.
Very good.
Road construction, so paving of some roads in town have begun. They are now working in the North Star Drive area, and so asphalt's going down. So please be patient. If you come to a neighborhood where these crews are working, just be patient, because there could be some backup, there could be some traffic. And I just want to remind folks that we're going to do all we can to kind of get the word out that paving's happen in particular areas throughout town. And if for some reason you have, if you live on one of these roads and you have either sprinklers in the ground or something in your lawn in the first few feet of the road, just know that those things may get damaged. So you need to kind of be proactive. If you know that they're marking roads ahead of you, ahead of time, and you notice that they're going to be paving in your area, you should probably clear those things away from the, right up to the road, because curbing has to be removed, paving has to go down, and new curbing has to go down. So we just want to remind people to be vigilant to ensure that they're not prohibiting these guys and gals from getting the job done to pave the roads. We talked about the work group for the trail. Ms. Turnquist mentioned that they did a walk from Factory Square to Zingarella's at their last meeting, and they had identified some pinch points where they would like to have access to power. either for lighting or possibly for cameras, so there's a lot of information. Maybe Paul could maybe speak a little bit more on that. I wasn't sure if Paul had anything to tell, but we could wait on that. The pond at Recreation Park is filled with algae again, and I go to Recreation Park a lot. My kids are there all the time, so, and it bothers me. So we've got to come up with a plan to clean that pond. I don't want to see green pond scum anymore. So the Public Works Department is working on this. There could possibly be some spraying. We thought about maybe dredging it, so more to follow on that, but we're going to report back on that. Go
Can I
ahead.
ask you a question,
Sure.
please, Mike? So, a couple of years ago, the aerator was too small for it. That
Yep.
was the thought, was too air. So they put a larger aerator in, and this is not working either.
It's not. It's just creating a larger circle. So there's a bigger circle of no pond scum, but there's still pond scum. So,
Okay.
but, and I get, and, you know, and I feel bad because my kids love to fish, and they throw a pole out there, the line out there, and it just sits on top of the pond scum. So, but Public Works Department is on it. They're working on it. They're coming up with some ideas on to try to, you know, rectify the situation. So more to follow on that as
Keep
well.
us posted.
And last but certainly not least, actually two more items. The turning lane onto Route 10 from Spring Street is about 95% done. I did notice, I was there the last 2 Saturdays, and there is a significant difference. But folks have to kind of be aware, if you're coming to the end of the road and you're not turning right, just inch over to the line a little, so cars can get by and make that turn onto Route 10. There is some internal work that still has to be completed, so they're not, you know, quite done, but we're just about 95% done up there. And then lastly, we had a large rain event last week where there was a 322, and a development had some water runoff that was going into some neighbors' properties. The neighbors contacted me, we contacted staff, we had meetings, we're rectifying that situation, and the property owner is willing and able to make some changes and some corrections to ensure that this problem doesn't happen again. So, any questions?
Any
I don't know if I
questions for
missed
Public
anything,
Works?
Chris? Any over there?
Very thorough.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Next item is our sewer department.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Instead of talking about the plant today, so you may recall, but town earmarked about $1 million to advance further the sewer relining program under the theory that an ounce prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I got an update on that. So since May, they've increased the project about 22% or 4.6 miles. So town staff's very happy that we provided them the funding and they've put it to best use. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Bill on the sewer department? No? Nobody? Okay, very good. Well, let's keep moving on. Item number 5, the town manager's report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to say that the administration and the police union have come to a tentative agreement to be approved by the council. It is a 4-year contract. It brings the insurance up to where the other unions were brought up to. The salary increases are 2.25, 2.25, 2 and 2, which are very reasonable numbers. It's the same numbers that we worked with the other unions. The management rights clauses have been worked out between my office, the chief's office, and the union. I must say that that this would not have happened without the union executive board. I see one member here, Stephen Salerno, Sergeant Stephen Salerno. Steve, I must say publicly, working with you over the last 6 months on this contract has been a pleasure. I wish they all were a pleasure, but this one was a pleasure, and I think that your executive board were true gentlemen, and you had the best interests of not only the union, which you're required to do, but also the town. So on behalf of the administration, thank you very much for working with us, and I'm sure we recommend this contract to you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on this contract? Steve, is there anything, Sergeant Salerno, is there anything else that you would like to add to this?
I'd like to thank Mark. He had goals that he had to have met. We had goals we had to have met. If we couldn't agree on something, we worked together to figure out how we could agree. Instead of spending $150,000 each in arbitration and arguing and letting the lawyers all get rich, we worked it out together, and it was a pleasure. Instead of arguing about everything, we worked together on the areas that we maybe had some concern on both sides, and we did. It was the easiest contract I've been on in 25 years.
Good. Wonderful. Well, we also want to thank the men and women of the Southington PD for their willingness to work with the town. And good job, Mark. Good job, Sergeant. And we appreciate it. So anyone have any questions before we move on? Hearing no other questions, Mark?
That's all I have, Madam Chair. We do have executive session on 2 items, and there'll be no action outside of executive session tonight.
Okay, very good. We now have the town attorney's report. Jeremy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hope you bear with me a little bit. There's a lot of information that I'd like to provide to you, the town council, as well as the public. So I am going to read off a little bit about the municipal impacts of the new cannabis legislation. So SB 1201 was enacted during the June 2021 special session, which legalizes adult use of cannabis. Among other things, the new law creates a process for the erasure of previous marijuana-related convictions, establishes legal adult recreational use of cannabis by allowing individuals aged 21 or older to possess, use, or otherwise consume cannabis and cannabis products, and establishes new laws and regulations and control of cannabis products. Tonight we're going to be talking about number C, the last one I mentioned. Some of the following specific municipal provisions of SB 1201 include Section 83 and 84, which deals with local referendums. Effective July 1st, 2021, if at least 10% of a municipality's electors petition for a vote to allow certain marijuana sales, it must be done at least 60 days before a regular election. A regular election is November 2nd, 2021. If met, the municipality must hold a referendum to determine whether to allow, number 1, the recreational sale of marijuana in the municipality, or 2, the sale of marijuana in one or more of the cannabis establishment license types. The ballot designations have just came out, and they are as follows. So this would be what would be on the referendum ballots. Number 1, shall the sale of recreational marijuana be allowed in the town of Southington? Or shall the sale of cannabis under specific licenses be allowed in the town of Southington? Or shall the sale of recreational marijuana be prohibited in the town of Southington? The referendum and ballot designations will conform to our existing procedures. The results take effect on the first Monday of the month after the election and stay in effect till another vote is taken. The second thing we want to talk about is the bill allows municipalities to amend their zoning regulations or local ordinances to take the following actions regarding cannabis establishments. And this is under sections 83 through 84 and section 148 of the bill. They allow the town to make or amend their zoning regulations to prohibit dispensaries from opening, to reasonably restrict their hours and signage, or to restrict their proximity to religious institutions, schools, charitable institutions, hospitals, veterans' homes, or certain military establishments. If the municipality imposes these regulations or ordinances regarding the above, they will be precluded from imposing additional or modified restrictions on cannabis establishments regarding the hours, zoning, or signage until 5 years after these original restrictions are adopted. Until June 30th, 2024, the bill prohibits municipalities from granting zoning approval for more retailers or cultivators than the number would allow for. And right now, the number allows for 1 for every 25,000 residents. There's certain restrictions for communities over 50,000. That doesn't apply to Southington, as we are just under that at around, I think, 43 or 44 right now. So, obviously, if it is approved, any sort of law, there's a 3% municipal tax, which would be on top of the state's 6.35 tax. It can be used for only certain purposes. I won't go through all those right now, but basically what I wanted to explain to you is that there's a couple things procedurally that are going on here. If the town council wants to hear this, this has to originate with the planning and zoning because these are zoning regulations that the bill allows you to enact. So planning and zoning would hear this first and then discuss it and refer it to you, the town council, for your next meeting after their meeting. But we also have to take in consideration that if the town does meet our threshold of 10% of registered voters, that we would have to have a local referendum on the November 2nd election period of time. So you could go through with either process, but obviously if the town starts the process with the planning and zoning and the town council, we have to wait for to see if we meet the referendum percentage at first. And that's all I have for right now.
So,
Questions?
yes, if I could just ask a
Sure.
question, then anybody else who has questions. If we wish for the planning and zoning to weigh in on this matter, do we do it by having a vote to send it to planning and zoning tonight? Do we need to add it to the agenda for a motion to send it to planning and zoning? Send it to planning and zoning.
That would be the proper procedure.
That's all I have. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify with the town attorney, and I think he alluded to it as well, but if there are planning and zoning votes and/or town council votes, and then a petition comes through and is verified, a successful petition, what happens to all of those town council and planning and zoning votes?
Basically, they sit by the wayside until we go to the referendum. The referendum actually takes precedent over that.
Gotcha, thank you. And secondly, I believe this is for the town manager, but can you just specify, when you read the documentation, it says 60 days prior to the election, which is the September 2nd date that you gave, but can you give a more, more concrete date that any specific petition would be due?
Yeah, there's a little quirk in the law, which hopefully the Secretary of State can work out. We're required as a municipality, anytime we do a referendum, we have to get the question up to the Secretary of State within 60 days of the general election, which means we're required to get the question to the Secretary of State prior to September 2nd. The way the new law works is that the petition can come to Kathy and I on September 1st or 2nd, which means there's no way we can verify all that kind of stuff and still get the question up to the Secretary of State. We're not going to be the only town with this issue. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of them. So I know that Kathy's working with her organization and hopefully get some clarification from the Secretary of State's office. But if it sits right now, we would ask that any petition, obviously, we would need time to look at it. So hopefully, if the Secretary of State does not act, we can get a petition prior to that. So give us some time to do the qualification of the question, the signatories, so that we can get it to the Secretary of State.
But more specifically, how much, on an estimate, how much time would the town clerk's office need?
3,500 plus signatures, Kathy?
Well, we'd also enlist the registrars to help us out with that, so.
A week or 2 weeks before that, or?
I would say the registrars would take on the majority of that, and I think they'd be able to probably do it in a week.
Okay, so that's what we'd be looking at. So obviously, we're hoping to get relief from the Secretary of State. If we're not, then it's going to be very tight for us.
So that's
it needs to
October,
be
or August 25th or 24th, somewhere around there?
The last week of August.
Or,
No, the question becomes, if the Secretary doesn't get relief, what the councilman's asking is, if you are going to be doing a petition, please try and get it to us a week before the due date, which would be that.
Yes.
I don't know what.
26th,
So obviously, if the
25th, somewhere around, okay. Yeah, we're just trying to put information out for the public so they could have something to work with.
Very good. Any other questions for the town's attorney? Anybody have any questions? No? Everybody's okay? Thank you, Jeremy, very much.
So, Madam Chair, just a question then.
Yep.
Jeremy, may I ask a question? To the town attorney, so do we need to have, if this is something that the council wishes the planning and zoning to enact, we have to add an agenda and take a vote, or is it just a consensus discussion? Is it even required, or can planning and zoning take it up? What's your recommendation on how we handle it? Should we add an agenda item to discuss
you
it?
can't. All you can do, if you
Sure,
all you
please.
can do is request another elected board. You can't.
Right, 'cause
you
we can't
direct another
mandate
elected
that,
board.
right?
This isn't an 824 where you direct something to them. So what you would do is it would be a request. A request from one elected board to the other. We'd like you to start talking about this and give us some feedback, or look at your regulations and see how you, as 7 elected officials, feel. But certainly you couldn't direct them to put it on their agenda unless they wanted to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Chair, if I can just.
Sure, of course.
Last time we had this with medical version, we had to create language in the zoning regulations to, when it became legal to do in the state, we had to create some zoning regulations so that it could be allowed to be used, but in certain areas. So is this the same case where if the planning and zoning wanted to take the matter up and wanted to put some regulation in, or if they wanted to say, hey, we don't feel it's appropriate for Southington, whatever they decided, either scenario, do they have to update their zoning regulations? And if the answer is yes, then I'm assuming they would have to go through the process of notification, 15-day notification for a public hearing, hear the public hearing, go through, and then decide, the input of the public hearing, and then take a vote either way, what they wanted to do. They'd have to draft the language, post it. Is that what you're saying needs to be done? They have
That's
to go through
correct.
that same?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
okay.
off there, Paul. The town, as you know, I think you might have sat on that planning and zoning, already has some regulations for medical marijuana. We don't have anything. Obviously, there was mention of non-medical, but now that the new law has passed, we'd have to go through that whole process again, just as you explained.
And then for the record, if nothing is done, if planning and zoning says, hey, we have permissive regulations, which basically states that nothing is allowed unless it's specified in the zoning regulation, my understanding is that this legislation is not covered under regular permissive zoning regulations. If nothing is done, it becomes allowable under a similar zoning regulation that might occur in the town.
That's correct. If you take, it specifically says in there, if you take no action, then you have to treat it as you would anything else that would be a typical zoning.
And they would
regulation.
probably have to decide what is typical for, what would they compare this to, right? Because
I don't know.
I think it says similar uses.
Would you look
So
at
it's-
it similar to alcohol establishments or?
Or medical marijuana, whatever, okay. So that's okay, good, thank you for clarifying.
So just for a procedural question here, so I apologize, I thought we would need to put it on as an agenda item to go to planning and zoning.
You could put it on as an agenda item. All I'm saying is that all you're asking them to do is to review this statute with the town attorney present or not with the town attorney present, so they can understand what the process is. But you couldn't direct them to do anything other
No,
than you're asking them to do something.
Okay, so, all right, so we
do you
do
want
need
me
an
to-
agenda.
Do you want me just to make it at least for a discussion item later in the meeting, Madam Chair, and ask for an agenda item to be put on?
Well, I think that would be the best way to handle it.
I don't know the
old-
necessity for it, though. If you're,
Your request.
We have to request planning and zoning if we want to. Is it under old business?
Yeah, you could put it under old business if you wish, or new business, but like I said, you would simply make a motion that you would request the Planning and Zoning Commission to discuss this matter with its town staff at its earliest convenience, whatever that may be.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I'll make the motion then.
To add it to old
Yeah,
business?
to add letter C, old business, for the town council to discuss whether we want to make a request of planning and zoning to consider this matter with town staff.
a second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Just a
Okay,
discussion.
sure.
Because now, based on what Paul said, I'm a little confused. So, Jeremy, if planning and zoning does not do anything, what does that mean for a petitioner that wants to open a medical marijuana facility in Southington? So-
Medical?
I mean, recreational. If planning and zoning does nothing, what does that mean?
That's right there.
Well, the planning zoning would have to, I believe, would have to consider a special permit for the opening of this, as we spoke about, but they'd have to treat it basically as any similar zoning would. I don't believe at that point that they would have to have a public hearing. That's why there's a special permit application for this. If nobody does anything, if they don't take action, you don't take action. So there is something in this legislation that says that, they would have to apply for it through a special permit, but that is for the purpose of not having to have a public hearing on it.
Okay, so the point of this motion is to what? To just ask them to consider? Because we don't have the authority to tell
Right.
planning and
You're
zoning.
asking them just to consider the statute and how it pertains to them, that's all.
Okay, so we're not forming an opinion one way or the other related to the statute. We're just asking them to review the statute.
You have no idea what they would request back to you at this point anyway. So
Okay.
you're asking them to review the statute with town staff to see what options, if any, they wish to take.
Okay,
Open the
Okay.
dialogue, basically.
Open the dialogue.
yeah, okay.
Chris, do you have any questions?
I just add, I think that it's a proactive measure to have our Planning and Zoning Committee talk to town staff and be up to date on things. And whatever path this town chooses to go, I think that we should be making the decisions about the regulations, and we shouldn't be being compared to some other community and having something imposed on us. We should all be informed,
Mhm.
and all boards, and engaged in the process.
I agree.
Proactive, not reactive.
So Paul has made a motion, it's been seconded, and we've had discussion. Any more discussion? If not, I'll just call the motion. All those in favor to request a discussion from...
Actually, it's to put on the agenda for...
I'm sorry, to put it on the agenda, item C, I'm sorry. And it would be a request of planning and zoning to discuss this matter with staff. Is that correct, Mr. Town Manager?
That is correct.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, Tom was opposed. Okay, very good. All right. So it does pass 8-1. So that's that.
No, 7.
7-1. Val's not here. Sorry. 7-1. Very good. Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Jeremy?
I have nothing further, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Any questions for the town attorney? Hearing none, we'll move on to public communication. Right now, we're going to open up the mic for any resident in Southington who would like to address the council for a period of 5 minutes, and just state your name and address for the record, and we're here to listen.
Wow, it's been a long time since I've been up here. Stacy Dolan, 1614 Marion Avenue, Southington, Connecticut. So I'm here today to let you guys know that I am creating a petition for this, and when we get the signatures for the referendum, I want you to know it is not because I am backing marijuana sales in Southington. I am backing the fact that every single person in this town who's a registered voter should get a say. I don't believe it should be up to a handful of people to make such a large decision for our town. And I know it could go the wrong way for me, and sales would be prohibited. But I'm okay with that because at least the people get a say. My second thought is, I think of the Columbus statue. I don't want this to go around beating a dead horse for years. At least if we pass a referendum and the people speak, it's a decisive issue and it's done, and we move forward because the people have spoken. And as an admin of Southington Talks, I would really love not to have post after post after post for years over it. So I'm asking all of you, even if you disagree with the sales of marijuana, that you at least sign a petition because you believe the people should have a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who's next? Hi, George.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George O'Burge, 141, I can't think of the name of the address,
It's okay.
Applegate. I got my assessment last week. I'd like to see you guys, you ladies and gentlemen, slow down on the spending that's going on. Southington Country Club was one thing. We're looking at closing down some schools, I would hope. It's about time because of the attendance or the number of students in the system today and the shortage of housing in Southington as well, too. But the latest thing that comes to my attention is the library in this town. I go in the library and I never see it that crowded at all. You can go upstairs and there's hardly anybody there. The price tag that has been put on this thing is, I just think it's out of sight. We've been doing a lot of spending in this town as of late. I'd like to see a lot more spending going to the police department. I would like to see a lot more spending going to the highway department, which I think are the two best departments in this town. The economic development department as well, too. $20 million for an expansion of the library. And in that comes the demolition of the present library as well. That building still looks like a new building even when you walk in there. You've even got some meeting rooms just downstairs. There's an elevator that goes downstairs. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, why do we tear down buildings and then build other buildings when we got all this vacant space in this town? It just doesn't make sense. Now, the Encyclopedia Britannica went out of business years ago. Anything you want to look up or find, you can find on a laptop computer or on a handheld iPhone. That's where most people are getting their information from today. But we can go out and spend $20 million on a new library. How many towns in this state or country are building new libraries? Now, if we rethought this thing and said, maybe we should look at a tech center or something like that. But a library? To put books in there when you have Kindle and all the other sources, Amazon, you know, that's pretty costly. And it's a cost that should be going down year after year after year. I'd ask that you rethink these costs. The other thing is, during the pandemic, I did a cost analysis of the Board of Ed expenditures. And I found that there was about $12 million. And I'm a former consultant, management consultant, dealing with costs. I found about $12 million in there that should have gone away that didn't go away. And that was from the start of the pandemic through the end of August of last year. Who really peruses that thing to see what they're doing? But we gave them the excess that came back to us. We gave them another grant and another grant. What about the high school parking lot up there? You know, it's not ever half full. You know, they needed more money for the school lunches. Now, let me ask you this question here. That pandemic has run through really April of this year. How much money is the Board of Ed going to return to the town of Southington? I'll bet you this, not 1 cent. And they're going to come to you asking for more money. I'd like to see how much money of that maintenance budget that they're given is actually used to maintain our schools. Because for year in and year out, you go to their meetings, and that money gets transferred to other departments. Let's start controlling spending. I know myself, well, I was on a building committee for that library. As such, I would question every single expenditure that is under that. I would want Gantt charts on every expenditure. Costs, timetables, purchasing, everything, going right on out. Seeing every one of those times met and every one of the costs met for every subsection of that. Total cost control, total management control, with accountability and responsibility at every step along the way. And by that I mean every week along the way. Accountability. Why? How come? How is it going to back it up? Did the supplies get there on time so the job gets done on time?
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I'm going to say I pretty much fully support what he just said. That's not what I'm here to talk about, though, but good guy. I didn't have time to prepare an actual statement. I just have some bullet points that I'm going to go through. But my name is Brian Joyce. I'm 35, 168 Royal Oak Drive, Southington, 20-year resident, entrepreneur, multiple business owner. All right. So the state legalized cannabis. They give you guidelines. First point. So I read the article that everybody was quoted in over the week Protecting the children seemed to be where you wanted to go. Regulation is much more effective than prohibition, which we've seen doesn't work throughout time. The kids can get weed easier than they can get alcohol, easier than they can get cigarettes, because you have to go to a certain store, be a certain age, have an ID, et cetera, et cetera. The reefer madness and the other draconian thinking that a lot of you are still stuck on, it's been debunked. It's been found to be untrue. The 50-year war on drugs was won by drugs, so congratulations to drugs. The guise of protecting children, it's a political non-answer, because the DARE program and the war on drugs did nothing except destroy families, feed the prison industrial complex, create criminals from victimless crimes, and further perpetuate a false narrative, which is grasping at the past rather than moving forward with the truth. The guidelines set by the state allow for P&Z to set municipality guidelines as to where the stores are to be allowed. Weed is here, it's not going anywhere, okay? In fact, it's right here, okay? It's legal, it's here. How many liquor stores have licenses, package stores, beer and wine permits at restaurants in this town alone? All right, we counted at least 18 liquor stores in this town. That does more damage to children than cannabis. Alcohol kills people every day. Cannabis has killed nobody in its existence. Alcohol has zero medical benefits versus cannabis, which has been found to have an extreme amount, with, just to list a few, anxiety, depression, etc. Alcohol's effects are literally, you're intoxicated. The root of the word is toxic. All right? Everybody can sit around and drink their bourbon and their whiskey while they consider this, and all you're doing is killing your bodies. Anecdotally, I can tell you that my friend works up in Great Barrington, Massachusetts for the pass, all right? They did $10 million in the first quarter of this year, which would have equated to $300,000 in tax revenue, which is $1.2 million for the entire year at 3%, okay? So if you're gonna ban cannabis, why aren't you looking in, and you want to protect the kids, why aren't you looking into protecting the kids with energy drinks, which are readily available at every gas station and other Quickie Mart in the town? Why aren't we banning McDonald's if it's really about the children? The term gateway drug has completely been debunked. That's not a thing. Drunk drivers kill more people and themselves in high-speed accidents on a daily, weekly basis, whatever we're going with, whereas the people that are stoned, as we might want to call it, sit at stop signs waiting for them to turn green while they're on their way to Taco Bell, right? Cannabis is here. Cannabis is a way to raise additional revenue for the town without raising taxes. Looking at Colorado, for example, the first year they put $200 million back into their schools. Again, that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Anthony Mazzarella, 115 Johanna Circle. So I first want to commend the town and especially our first responders for their response to the ammonia leak last night. I live in the area, got the text message. It was definitely an unsettling situation, but the notification system worked flawlessly, and you know, there was comfort in that. And seeing such a quick resolution, you know, really made me once again to be proud to live in this town with the resources we have and the talent that we have. So I'm also here today to voice my support for bringing the decision to allow retail sales of cannabis products to a referendum. I want to thank Ms. Dolan for her leadership and efforts to support this effort. And I especially appreciate that the referendum effort is motivated only by giving our residents a voice on a potentially controversial issue. I'm asking the town leadership and this council to support the organizers in any way they can, especially through cooperation, enabling open discussion, and you know, helping provide solid information so the residents can make an informed decision. Because I know there's a lot that I don't know related to this decision and the implications of allowing sales or not allowing sales, aside from the fact that, of course, we're talking about alternative streams of revenue potentially, but also equally interested in hearing the downsides. So really, again, hoping that the organizers can get this thing rolling. It'll come to a referendum, and I'm really hoping that our town leaders will support that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else?
Susan Zabahansky, 28 Working Street in Plantsville. First of all, I want to say that we have elected officials, and the town people speak when they hold an election. So when we ask a council to come together, elections have consequences. The consequences of the people choose who they want to represent them. And so I'm hoping that you guys will do that. I think we're jumping the gun trying to put this as a referendum item entirely. I'm sure many of you haven't gotten through the 297-page bill. I know I haven't. I'm still shuffling through it. For people who are saying that this is going to create a massive amount of revenue for the town, they obviously haven't looked at the bill very carefully. So I advise you do that. There's a big section on where this goes. Even the Democrats can't agree where the money went, which is why it was held over and didn't pass during regular session. They had to have a special session to talk about their 297-page cannabis bill. So I just wanted to say, speaking to the youth, I mean, everyone here on this council, I believe, voted for, tobacco 21, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Brian Joyce on some points that we have to make a decision in town. Are we protecting our youth, or are we not protecting our youth? And where does the youth begin? Is it 18? Is it 21? There should be a definite answer to that age limit. We're letting 16-year-olds vote, but they can't smoke a cigarette, they can't drink. Cannabis does have effects on people whose brains are growing, despite what anyone says. The research is out there. That age, I believe, is 24 before the brain is fully developed. There is research out there that shows that cannabis does affect a growing brain. If we want to stop cigarettes from coming into town, being sold in town, candy cigarettes being sold in town, then we need to, and in the goal of protecting our youth, then we need to make that a collective decision. Are we doing that, or are we not doing that? So we're going to bring a dispensary into our town and make it available to our youth, more readily available to our youth. So I just want to say, I think there's no need to put this in a referendum. There's a process already set in that 297-page bill, which calls for it to go to zoning if someone gets the $4 million permit to get or license to get it. And then there's regulations the town has in place. At that point, it goes to a public hearing. So I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, and I don't think it needs to go to a referendum at this point. And so just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
All right. Half of what you just said
Okay,
is
well,
false.
we're not going to have a debate back and forth, Brian.
I'm not having a debate. I'm
Okay.
going to correct the false narrative that she just directed. It's not a $4 million permit.
Well-
and also, half of what she just said is very impulsive. I did read the entire 297-page
Brian,
bill.
but my point is that you've had your opportunity,
That's
and
fine.
it's okay.
That's fine, but there should be a response, and there should not be a false narrative.
You can't go
perpetuated.
back and forth like
You're
this.
right.
Yeah.
Susan, we're not speaking to you.
So next meeting you can do that,
meeting,
Brian. And we take it up the same way. People might have a difference of opinion with you. You might have a difference of opinion with them. Just a minute, please. Just a minute.
It is 21 and over.
Okay.
Anyone else want to?
All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
There's somebody.
Here we go. One last one. Okay. You got in right as I was hitting the gavel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Richard Cooper, 79 Barbara Lane. Can I adjust this? Plantsville, Connecticut. That's better. So I basically just had to change a bunch of what I was going to say because of some other things people said, so just bear with me. So basically, there's no good reason why the citizens should have to go to referendum for recreational marijuana sales. This council should decide. I agree with the person that just spoke. I mean, I would disagree with this council if they decided not to allow marijuana stores in the town, but I at least expect this council to have enough grit to make that vote, make that decision themselves. Don't make us have to go to referendum. That leaves the door open to so many issues involving just, it'll take us down the drain. Don't make us do that. Allow us to have at least one recreational marijuana store when the time is right and the, right person or company proposes it. We should consider using that tax revenue to invest in institutions designed to captivate our disengaged youth, the ones who are most inclined to abuse marijuana. And we should focus on honestly educating them on why they should not smoke marijuana when they're young and their brains are still developing. But if you are a full-grown adult, this council does not serve as a judgment, as a Supreme Court of judging moral character. So I just ask that you do your job and, excuse me, keep an open mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else? Final call. Hearing none, we're going to close public communication. Thank you all for speaking. Let's move right on to old business. Item A, action on the Live Well project public hearing. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Motion to
I'll
approve.
second, Madam Chair.
Second by Michael.
Let me just clarify, obviously, the resolution that's in your packet is what you're making a motion to approve.
Yes, it's in our packet. A resolution of the Town of Southington, Connecticut approving for purposes of Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code, 1986, the issuance of the National Finance Authority of not to exceed $90 million in revenue bonds, Live Well Project, Series 2021, providing certain other matters in conjunction therein, providing an effective date.
Perfect.
Okay, very good.
IRS, Madam Chair, I don't want to keep anything, want to make sure we dot all the i's.
We dot all the i's. We better do it. They need to make sure that's
Madam
perfect.
Chair.
So we have a motion on the floor. It's open for discussion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to thank the representatives who came out. I think, when you look at the number, this isn't $9 million. This is a $90 million bond. Right. They're making they're a great partner and business in the community already, and they're making a significant investment in arguably one of the most needed areas, taking care of the people who need facilities and treatments like this. So thank you very much for the commitment that you're making by doing this.
Thank you, Paul. Any other statements? Yeah, Chris?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Oh, excuse me, just one second, Jim.
I had the fortune of attending a ceremony there early in my career at the town council to represent the town for a veteran that was recognized for his achievement. And I can tell you that was a moving experience for me, one I'll never forget. And I think the work that they're doing there is fantastic. So anything we can do to help them is okay with me. Thank you.
Chris?
Just to echo both Paul and Jim, I appreciate their commitment. Also, to take it a step further, their outreach in the community. We know they've come before the council. They've gone before various civic groups just to get the message out there. Dementia-friendly Southington, correct. So I just appreciate that they're such great partners in the community. And then just also right before we vote on this, a reminder to everyone, especially in light of some of the comments we heard tonight, this is no obligation to the town of Southington. It's a $90 million investment, but it's on Live Well, not on any of our residents. So I think that's important. And this referendum is to just simply say that the town council had a public hearing as mandated by the IRS. Resolution as mandated by the IRS, but not that we are taking any financial obligation with the $90 million project.
Correct. Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, Tom?
Councilman Palmieri actually just stole my thunder with the fact that the town is not expending any money here. This is just a platform. So congratulations and best of luck with the renovation and addition. Thank you.
And I've had opportunity to do religious services at Live Well, and the staff and the folks at Live Well are just amazing. And so, are there any other further statements? So all those in favor?
Roll call vote.
A roll call, because it's 90 million. Yep, roll call, please.
Datyk?
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Congratulations. Item number B, action on the police union contract.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, Paul made the motion and Tom seconded it. Any discussion on this matter? Any further discussion on the police union contract? I hear no further discussion, so Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item C, please, the request to discuss with, the request to Planning and Zoning to discuss the implementation of,
SB 1201.
what's the number?
SB 1201.
SB 1201, thank you, Tom. I didn't write it down.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Very good, is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Second, any discussion?
Just can you remind, what is this motion exactly that we're making?
It's a-
Open a facility tomorrow.
No, no.
Oh, no.
It's a motion for Planning and Zoning to consider the new state legislation and how it impacts Southington, and whether they feel that it's appropriate to take any action or not.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Mhm.
It's unusual.
It is,
It is
that's why
unusual. But I think it's the way it has to go. It has to get to Planning and Zoning, yet we can't give them directive on it. So we don't tell them what our feelings are, and it goes to them first, and then it'll come back to us and see if there's any further discussion with us, too. Bill, you wanted to make a statement?
Yeah, more just an observation. I don't want to substantively discuss the vote, but, you know, I look at this and it's disappointing on a local level what our state legislature and governor did to us, right? So there's 169 towns right now that were given, I mean, I'm assuming their town charters are similar to ours, right? You could have referendum anywhere in our town charter, but here you have special legislative permission. So when have they ever done that before? You know, and they know it's a polarizing issue. They know there's going to be towns, and they know there's certain that would be a hard no. There's no chance. So instead of them taking on the task and doing it at a state level, which is what their job is, they kicked it to 169 towns for us to grapple with, spend local resources, like our town clerk's office, counting ballots. And I'm going to say it, people in the public who are doing the right thing too. You're exercising your rights too. But why isn't our legislature resolving this? Are they going to do this with legalized gambling next? Are they going to have all of us do this, or is it just this topic? So that's just my observation. It's very frustrating as a local policymaker to see what the hand they dealt us.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Dietzick brought up some good points, and what the residents of Southington have to realize is that this body did not determine legal versus not legal. The bill, we learned tonight, 291 pages, whether somebody read them or didn't read them, that bill has already been passed. Okay, so and the other comment is also another great comment that we hear very often. Why send it to referendum? We're elected to do a job, and I agree with that. I've agreed with that for many, many years. But in this instance, the state statute is very specific that a municipality must hold a referendum if a certain threshold is met. I'm very confident that threshold will be met. And I'm even I'm willing to go as far as to say I wish I had support on this body that we would just waive that 10% requirement and just say go to referendum. I don't want to see the town clerk's office. I don't want to see the town attorney. I don't want to see the town clerk wasting resources and taxpayer money. It's gonna get there one way or the other, and we can vote on it, and I'm fine with voting on it in August or September or whatever, but I'm telling you that there will be a referendum. So that's kind of where I stand on this issue. And that was the reason for my no vote on adding it as an agenda item, and that will be my reason for voting no on pushing it to planning and zoning.
Okay, anybody else have any discussion on this? Okay, I think we better call a roll on this.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
No.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
No.
Pulis. Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes.
6-2.
6-2.
Our math is off.
So
since
it's
Val
going to
wasn't here.
planning and zoning. Okay, thank you, everybody. Item 9, the new business on tax refunds. Who has them?
It's Val, but I'll do it.
Mr. Poulos would have it.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the tax refunds as detailed in our packet.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Very good. We're going to be adjourning into executive session, barring the press and public, inviting Attorney Sheffy, I saw him out there, hi Tony, for an H&H matter and a real estate matter, and I believe that person will be here. I'm not,
Yes.
I haven't seen
Yeah,
him.
real estate.
Okay, may I have a
to move into
motion?
executive session, Madam Chair.
And there will be no business out after the executive session for the press.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourning into executive session. Thank you, everybody.